Hi, welcome back to AATV. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd, and this week we're doing something a little bit different. I've got together with some awesome YouTube channels to put together a podcast for you. What I've got coming up is part 2 of 3, so I'll link part 1 and part 3. The other guys involved in this production are Sons of Adrenaline, Thin Brown Line, and the English Kiwi. If you like what they do, please like their videos, subscribe to their channels if you want, and I hope you enjoy it. Away we go. So, Ben, something that's been bothering me and a few of my mates recently is, and here's a comedy picture of, let's make replicas more realistic.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is largely about, so for me, my interest in Airsoft comes from...
Shall I just leave?
You can be quiet for a while, because you're like the Antichrist. It's effect. So my interest in Airsoft and my Airsoft guns comes from fairly accurate military service weapons. So I like, and Ben gets this. He's got quite a few behind him. He can probably point at them. Mark is a dirty man.
I've got some proper ones. My AUG is unmolested. My L85 is even to the point where it's got correct NATO green on it. I took the crap off it and put NATO green on it. My 1911's unmolested.
But it's always good to have some perspective.
Yes.
But and again, so what I don't want to come across as is a massive arsehole in saying that everyone else's hobby is wrong. Your hobby is your hobby. So
yeah, you're just more of a purist when it comes to your airsoft guns.
Do what the hell you want with it. So I
keep this by my desk for when Mark sends me pictures of his latest creations. Just in the eyes.
So, I like military service weapons now, but to a certain extent, what I'm not going on about is let's all have military clothes. Let's all have this. What I would like to see. He's off again.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I've pissed him off enough as it is.
I'll be back.
I'll just let me just rephrase this. Okay, so for me, the crux of making replicas more realistic is let's just use so the crux for me in making replicas more realistic is having replicas that are made of more realistic materials, are manufactured in more realistic ways, and are more correct to the actual weapon. So I'm just going to go and reach across and grab this, which is a DAT number 4 Mark 1 Star Enfield. Can't go bang bang anymore.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Can't go pew.
Can't go pew. It is impossible. But it is a real gun, and it's had quite. And actually, we got this recently. It's had quite a profound effect on me because it is just so solid. It's so nicely built. And this is 1945, so this is wartime, World War II wartime construction. It's not beautiful. It's not beautifully finished and polished and all of that sort of stuff.
But it's got its stings and its scratches. It's got its history.
You can so you can see the milling marks. You can see where the machine tools have stopped.
Yeah,
it's got history. It's also got history. It's got all the wood's banged up and dinged and everything else. I would yes, yes, and that I would love.
I may need a minute.
Airsoft guns to be more like this. To have the tactile. It's real wood. It's real forged and then machined steel.
Yeah.
It's got it's just a lovely object. My partner, who is not particularly into war and everything else, who is an artist, just likes it because of its history and because of its and everything else behind it. Her granddad carried this in the war, so it has a resonance with her. But it's just a lovely object and it's really well made. But when we come to airsoft guns, generally, and there are some exceptions, this would be made of cheap wood, made of plastic. It would have nickel alloy receiver. It would just not be this.
You wouldn't have that noise.
Are we talking about a certain actual Airsoft Lee Enfield?
And there are some Airsoft Lee Enfields, but none of them are anywhere. Now this is the same price as an Airsoft Lee Enfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still waiting on G&G to drop theirs.
Yeah, I mean,
and
Matt's got a deactivated Bren that has the same effect.
Yeah.
It's it's full weight everything, and it's just beautiful to look at.
Now this is a GHK gas blowback M4A1. which is soon to be turned into a L119A1A2.
Good lad.
And this is, for me, this is almost the standard that I think airsoft guns should be at, because it, to a certain extent, it also does pretty much everything a real firearm would do.
That's the closest I have to proper.
This is probably the closest to properly functioning I have.
So these are gas blowbacks?
Yeah, this is my WeTech, but
This
it's
isn't,
obviously
no.
bits because it's currently in development for the A3 stuff I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is EBB.
Okay, but this has, because it's a gas blowback, it pretty much operates in the same way as a real firearm. You know, charging handle is correct. It has a bolt. It has a bolt release. The safety actually works in the correct way, and everything else as well. It's also built. It's built stronger. It's steel where it should be steel. It's aluminium where it should be aluminium. Now, this isn't cheap. This is a £600 gun.
Yeah.
So I get that not everyone can have £600 guns, but I would love manufacturers to spend more time focusing on material construction, processes, and everything else, rather than trying to bring out a slightly shinier, slightly weirder version of a gun, rather than focusing on doing things right.
And I'd like more manufacturers to make things that aren't just an M4 or an AK.
Oh, yes, God, yes.
But that's never going to happen because they're what sell. Because they're what
It's like asking Games Workshop to not do Space Marines.
Yeah.
They're always going to sell.
Not going to happen. But to me, I mean, I have no problems with. I could own multiple versions. So it's a slightly different thing for me. I could own multiple AKs and I could own multiple AR variants. It really doesn't bother me. But I would like them to be very. To me, and I get I'm not in the majority. I would like them to be very accurate and
absolutely.
completely right. You can't buy, and I still find this completely insane. You can't buy an L119A1 or an L119A2. So for people that aren't familiar with that designation, that's the British Army designation for the rifle that the SAS use. So you would think that that an airsoft manufacturer would be all over a rifle that the SAS use.
And
you would, wouldn't you?
It's used by some others now as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so the Royal Marines use them, Special Forces Support Group use them, some signals attachments use them.
And
But it's such an iconic.
Sorry, go on.
It's such an iconic object that you'd think that an airsoft manufacturer would produce one, but they haven't. And so you have to go to.
It does. It beggars belief because it is loosely based off of an M4 anyway. So
Yes, it's made by Colt Canada, who were DeMarco. So there's partly they were chosen by another side. Partly they were chosen because Canada's a Commonwealth country, so there was a whole supply and demand issue. But also Colt Canada, DeMarco at the time, just made things to a better standard.
Yeah. So I met some of the Colt Canada guys a while back, and I actually asked them. I said, "Oh, so why did the C8 get picked over just a standard M4? And like, what's the difference between the C8 and standard M4?" And they were saying their machining tolerances are much higher. It's much more accurate. The barrel is a better barrel. All sorts of things like that. And it's just generally they built the gun to a higher standard quality. I remember ages ago I was at RAF Odeon, and this was back when I was a cadet, and we were taken into the armoury there, and they had everything set up, and then the armourer's just going through and he's picking up. He's got loads of AKs. He's like, oh, Chinese AK, Russian AK, all this stuff, and he picks up this M4. And he's just like, it's like a fucking toy. And he's just like twisting it and bending it and stuff. And he's like, yeah, this is just standard issue M4 because they're just so worn out now. Because most M4s are you're looking at 20 odd years now. And
1995, the first ones were out.
Okay, so they're 25 years old now. Yeah. So, and I bet you they've still got some of the early M16s.
Must be older than Ben
and stuff. Not quite. Not quite.
So it's about to bring it back to the rant to the original point is that so most airsoft guns, most airsoft M4 AR variants, they're die-cast nickel alloy receivers. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much the same. So it gets called pot metal or Chinesium or and some other slightly insulting words I'm not going to use at the moment. But nickel alloys, so it's fairly low temperature casting. It's a fairly cheap material. You can bang it out fairly quickly, but it's fairly hard. It's fairly brittle. It's just not a strong material. And so that's most airsoft guns. I would, and this is an aluminium alloy casting, so it's slightly stronger. I would absolutely love, and I would pay for, a forging.
Ooh.
Yeah, look at him getting all excited.
But that would be so expensive.
I can hear the cogs turning.
But it would be expensive.
Yes. On the other hand,
especially as a one-off. Yes.
I have here the cheapest L85 on the market, not including UK arms springers.
You mean that one?
Mark has the same one. And
the Army
Armament. The real Army Armament, yep. The real ones are made of stamp steel, and pretty sure that's stamp steel.
Yeah, they are.
So actually, closest to
it's probably
being
thicker than the real one.
It probably is. Well,
they are. Yeah. There's only a few grams in it weight-wise between this and the real one, because obviously the motor and the gearbox are very, very, very similar weight to all the bolt gubbins in the real one.
Yeah. I feel like I need an L85 at this point.
So we're all standing on that. Because obviously, as you two know, I've held and used both the A1 and the A2.
Yeah.
The reason I've got the Army Armament is because it is, to me, the closest in dimensions, weight, and looks to the real A1.
Okay.
And it's also one of the strongest I've found. I mean, I've worked on, again, both of you know this, I've worked on a lot of guns, and I'm starting to work on even more. And out of all the L85s I've worked on the Ares, the Star, the Wii, the G&G, the ICS, and the Army Armament. And the Army Armament, other than the trigger mech, I love the ICS trigger mech. Other than the trigger mech, the Army Armament seems to be the strongest built. Not necessarily the best, but the strongest built.
Yeah, it does seem to take a lot of thing. Although that being said, I have never had any problems with my G&G. But again, Army and G&G are...
They're a clone of each other,
clone of G&G.
Yeah.
But they're also actually built roughly to spec, because I've got a real DD rail, and it fits them absolutely fine.
That are real.
That's part of my point. So a lot of the stuff... So part of the reason I really enjoy my GHK is I'm buying real steel stuff for it, and it goes on.
Yeah.
So,
just bolts straight on,
real stock tubes, real castle nuts, real mag releases, real fire selectors. It all just goes straight on.
Yeah, and that's the same reason I like the Army Armament.
And I will never own one of those guns, and I can't. It depends where you are in the world, but we certainly can't own.
Yeah,
we can't.
5.56 semi or we can't even own 5.56 semi-auto rifles in the UK.
No.
So this is the closest thing we can get on the shooting 2.2, which is a different matter entirely.
Without signing a specific bit of paper.
Yeah. So there's a certain thing. So part of it is and what kind of sparked this was I'd been on a bit of a rant on Facebook anyway, and then at MOA GHK put out their Glock 17, which has a forged steel upper, and it's pretty much forged steel and then post machined, just like a real Glock, and then they're using a gas blowback system in it rather than a GBBR, so using a rifle gas blowback system in it rather than a pistol system in it.
Yes, the blowback's much harder.
Yeah, and they're also using an overmolded frame, which has the steel, the rails being screwed into it. They're overmolded and they're proper steel rails. So it's constructed like the real gun, rather than just pot metal rails screwed into a terrible ABS lower. It's actually proper polymer. And it's actually proper steel, so it's proper overmolded. That thing, so it's going to be 300, and this is the point. It's going to be 300, 350.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it
for a pistol, which for a lot of people is going to, and I totally understand, is going to be prohibitive. For me, that is just awesome.
Yeah, because it's going to be practically the gold standard. It's going to be the closest thing to a real Glock as you can get.
And I don't even really care if it's rubbish in terms of shooting.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's the realism.
As long as I can hit someone at 20 metres away, I don't care.
Yeah, that's what a pistol should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at doing a game. We're looking at doing a game ourselves recently, in the next 6 months, and we're looking at either turning the hop off on pistols, or restricting people to .2s.
So doing what we were talking about last time.
I only use .2s anyway.
Yeah, because
I may use .28s, but I can't hit shit.
Well, I do for performance, but then what's the point of a pistol that can hit 60 metres and outperform an AEG? So, but we've had that discussion in a previous podcast. So I would just like manufacturers to stop spending time on gimmicks and this shiny, and this goes back to my rants about PCCs and civilian ARs and everything else. Just spend the time on materials and construction and doing it right and making them work as realistically as possible. And I get that I've been doing this game for 20 years, and what I want is not what most people want. But that's what excites me. That's what excites me about that GHK. That's what I like about my GHK.
What do you think about the Northeast Sten? Because apparently they've said they've tried to copy that as closely as possible to the real manufacturing process and stuff.
It leaks like a sieve.
But it's a Sten. It's meant to be shit.
But the mag, but you can so I had one for testing, and it had to go. So now I don't particularly. I'm not massively associated with Airsoft Action anymore. I still write occasionally, but the channel is disassociated. It was terrible.
Right.
It was a lovely thing in terms of it was built like a Sten. It was welded like a Sten. It looked like a bag of shit, just like a Sten.
Good.
Fantastic. But it leaked gas out of both ends of the mag, so it was completely useless.
I wonder if they've improved that or not.
So I really hope they've improved that, and I really hope the pre-production version I got they massively improved.
Because there's a couple of people reviewing they've released a suppressed one now. With the canvas handguard and everything,
and that'll probably leak out of the mag.
Yeah.
But I went online and I did a bit of research afterwards, and everyone else's mags leaked anyway.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Well, because the only reviews I've seen of the the latest release is positive, but I'm a bit dubious as to whether or not that's because they're getting a bit.
It's not. It's a lovely thing. So the impression I got from it is it's a really nice thing to have if you like a Sten. If you can't, you can't go. It's very difficult to go and buy a Sten.
Yeah.
Even a DIAC.
Yeah.
If you want a wall hanging Sten, fantastic.
Yeah.
If you want to actually skirmish with one.
Yeah.
It's really not a skirmishable thing.
And